Social Animal was $99. It's now completely free. If you'd like to get your hands on a copy of it, simply visit callmecare.com/social. But for now, please enjoy this video. If you haven't gathered from this channel or my blog, I'm a massive fan of email marketing for a bunch of different reasons. Firstly, it's the cheapest marketing channel out there. Secondly, it gives you a long runway to build a relationship with your prospects and eventually convert them into paying customers. You get rid of the time pressure that can be there on social media. Thirdly, you get to bypass the algorithm from social media. And fourthly, you're competing in a much less competitive and distracting environment, that being their inbox versus their social feed. But specific to today's conversation, the biggest advantage of email is that it works 24/7, 365 round the clock, and it's almost infinitely scalable. It doesn't matter whether someone's on the other side of the world to you and you're fast asleep, you can still reach them with an automated email. Likewise, it's the same amount of work for you to send an email to 100 people as 100 million people. You just write it once, you set it up, and then you let it run. Now, a quick word of warning where email is concerned. In my opinion, the more expensive the thing you're selling is, the longer it's going to take to persuade someone, and the more live and interpersonal the communication needs to be. I doubt that you've ever bought anything as expensive as a house without a face-to-face meeting, and you've certainly not bought one via email. In my experience though, you can use email to sell stuff into the hundreds or even around the $1,000 mark without any interpersonal communication whatsoever. For any narrowly defined or repeatable communication below that threshold, email is a fantastic tool to use. Today we're going to be talking about a variety of different email automations that I think are must-haves for online coaches. You can think of an automation as just a digital version of a conversation. If you were to do everything manually in your business, I'm sure there'd be a limited number of conversations that you'd find yourself having with people again and again. Creating an email automation allows you to effectively turn that into a one-sided conversation, write it once, then use it again and again. Now, is it possible that making a conversation one-sided and email-based is marginally lower conversion or a little bit less personal than, say, a Zoom call? True, yes, maybe a tiny bit, but what you lose in quality, you're going to gain a huge amount in quantity, and you'll free up a massive amount of time that you can then dedicate to higher revenue activities that do need the personal touch from you. So, two things before we get into the different types of automations. The first is that you're going to have to put your hand in your pocket for this. There is no free way to mass email with automations. Bite the bullet, put your hand in your pocket, and don't be cheap. If you want recommendations, I use Ontraport, and there's an affiliate link in the description if you want to try it free for a month and also support this channel. The second is we're going to spend some time going over the general structure of an email automation before we talk about the different types. Firstly is the trigger. The trigger is the event that starts the sequence of emails. A sequence could be one email long, or it can be dozens of emails over months or years, but you do need something to kick everything off. The biggest advantage of this is timeliness. People want to receive the most appropriate message at the most appropriate time. So for example, we're not going to ask someone for feedback on our product or service if they just signed up for it. Likewise, we're not going to contact them and offer to help close a sale if they didn't even click through to buy that product yet. So we have to make sure that we're picking the appropriate trigger to send the appropriate message. And what constitutes the most appropriate message is going to be informed by the prospect or customer's behavior in the present and how they've most recently interacted with your content or your brand. Triggers can vary by platform, but can include things like filling out a form, clicking through to a page, purchasing or canceling a product, a particular date or time arriving, both in the absolute or relative sense, and any combination of the above. The second element you're going to think about is the goal. The goal is the opposite of the trigger, i.e. it's the event where you've achieved the outcome of the conversation that you intended for. Goals are as wide-ranging as triggers, and the goal of one campaign may actually become the trigger of another campaign. So for example, filling out a pre-registration for a product may be the goal of an initial email campaign, but it can also be used to trigger a more in-depth targeted sales campaign down the line. Again, the value of having a goal in an automation is timeliness. People don't want to be receiving emails that aren't pertinent to their current position within that customer journey. So when you get the answer that you want, stop talking. If the goal of a sequence is to get someone to buy, shut up when they buy and/or start the next conversation, which is more appropriate. The third is the message, whatever it is you're saying. In the interest of keeping this short, I'm not going to go into how to write effective emails, but ensure that every message that you're sending has a desired action on the part of the prospect or the customer in mind. And you need to be driving your audience towards that action, both within an email and within a series of emails that you're sending out via automations. Lastly is merge fields. Merge fields is basically just a way that you can personalize certain pieces of information in an email based on information that has been given to you by a prospect or a customer. And this is super useful because people are much more likely to respond when the message that they're consuming is relevant and actually applies to them. So things like addressing them by their name, mentioning the product or service that they've looked at or bought, referencing a particular action they took on a certain date, asking them how they're doing at insert name of job that they gave to you. And all of these are things that you can use to personalize your messages and increase the likelihood of not only people reading them, but then also taking those positive actions, those goals that we just talked about. So let's get into the meat. What I'm going to spend the next few minutes talking about are the 5 most important types of email automations that I think you should be running in your online coaching business. For each of them, I'm going to talk about what function or purpose I think it serves, the trigger that should start it, the goal that should end it, and what sort of messages should be included in the sequence. The first and most obvious automation is sales, where of course the goal is to persuade people into buying. The caveat here is that you don't want to put a sales message in front of someone who isn't ready to hear it. It's like going up to a girl in a bar and saying your place or mine. You're just going to get slapped in the face. Likewise, you don't want to be putting a sales message in front of someone if they've already bought a more expensive product from you, because the goal should always be to upsell people, not down. For this reason, I recommend that you only trigger a sales sequence in 2 instances. One is if they've just opted into a lead magnet, so a free resource, they've signaled their interest and intent to you. In this instance, I would trigger a sales sequence for your lowest priced product or service. If they've previously bought from you, I would suggest that you trigger an upsell sequence sometime around or after the end of consuming that initial product or service. So for example, if I sell an 8-week program, I'm probably going to email them with an upsell sequence in week 9 where I credit what they paid for the first program towards the second, more expensive program. For this sequence, I recommend about 7 to 10 days of emails, 1 email per day, because it gives you several opportunities to try and get them over the line via different persuasion tactics, emotional messages, logical ones, urgency and scarcity, guarantees, and other risk minimization tools. Any longer than that though, and I think you can start to piss people off and alienate them and get unsubscribes. And honestly, if they haven't bought after a week, they're probably not about to buy. So I think 7 to 10 days is the sweet spot for this automation. Now, if they don't buy, a nurturing sequence is probably the automation that you're going to want to trigger after that. When people don't buy, it's because they're not sufficiently persuaded. It could be about you specifically, it could be about the product or service, it could be about their need for it, or it could be about their own personal circumstances at the time, like time and money. But for whatever reason, the perceived value of what you're offering relative to their perceived cost just isn't there to justify a purchase. So you need to persuade them some more via valuable content. Make content every week, send it to their email every week, and only stop the automation when they advance themselves further down the funnel or leave it. That is, they buy or they unsubscribe. Note that this automation can be paused and unpaused over time. If, for example, you run a subscription business and you have a customer who is frequently signing up and then canceling, a nurture sequence can be a good tool in this instance to keep them engaged when they cancel, keep you in their mind, and keep them coming back in the future rather than just losing them permanently the first time they cancel your product or service. Another instance where you might want to pause a nurturing sequence is a cart abandon automation. You would be shocked and horrified at the percentage of people who click the buy button on your product or service but never actually fill out the order form and complete a purchase. And this can happen for a variety of reasons. People get distracted, or they run out of time, their card doesn't work, their financial institution blocks it, maybe they're just not sure about the purchase. Regardless, when that happens, you should email them. So our trigger for this automation is going to be the visiting of the order form or the clicking of a button to buy. Now, a small caveat here, for this automation, you actually want to wait a little bit before sending out the first email. I recommend 2-3 hours. Don't let someone click to buy, then immediately hammer them with an email saying, "Why didn't you buy?" It should be obvious to you when this email goes out that they really did initiate a checkout and they didn't buy. You don't want to be sending out emails while they still might be completing that purchase. I personally send out one email about 3 hours after they initiate that checkout. And then I asked, "Hey, do you have any questions?" if I can help process a payment, anything like that to support a purchase. I'll then send another email one day after that with a coupon code for a discount to get them back into the funnel and hopefully incentivize them to make a purchase. Importantly, I have a purchase as the goal for this automation so that if they make a purchase, I'm not sending a coupon code to somebody who already bought. So if at any time they make a purchase throughout that cart abandon sequence, it finishes, I'm not going to send out any more emails. Just like with our sales sequence, if they have not bought after initiating a checkout after 1 to 2 days, they're probably not going to complete a purchase. So in this instance, I'm going to either move them to a nurturing sequence or unpause them on a nurturing sequence that they were previously on. Now, 2 more automations that I like to use are very simple but very useful. One is when they buy, the onboarding email, and the other is when they cancel, the feedback email. These are super simple because there's only a trigger and there's typically only one email unless you have a super complicated onboarding or cancellation process. Ironically, although they're simple automations to set up, I think the goals are actually a little less clearly defined. The goal of your onboarding sequence is actually to eliminate refund requests, to eliminate buyer's remorse. And to do that, you need to make people glad that they bought from you. So the second they buy, email them. Tell them thank you very much, set their expectations for what's going to happen next, and let them know how they can contact you if they have a customer service inquiry. And in doing so, you'll eliminate any complaints about slow deliveries, unclear processes, expectations not being met, and confusion on the part of your customers. You can also use a variation of this email to deliver a lead magnet or free resource. Don't let people download your lead magnet via a link on a page, and definitely don't make it public. Don't give away something of value without asking for something of value in exchange. So get their email and deliver what you promised to them via that email, which conveniently also reduces the likelihood of them giving you a fake email just so they can get their free stuff. The goal of the cancellation automation is twofold. When they cancel, firstly, can you get them back in the funnel with a sufficiently attractive offer? Maybe you offer them a big discount if they stay. Maybe you downsell them to a low level product. Maybe you offer them a different product altogether. But if they don't stay, your second goal is to thank them for being a customer of yours and to ask them for feedback on how you can do better next time. The advantage of this is the goodwill that you're going to buy on the way out, which boosts their chances of coming back in the future. And it's also the information that they give you on how you can improve your product or service and reduce the likelihood of cancellations in the future. Thanks for checking this video out. Like I said, if you want to start implementing automations in your online coaching business, click on the link in the description to try Ontraport free for a month. They have some great templates to get you started. And as a thank you to you for using my affiliate link and supporting this channel, I'll be happy to answer any questions you have about getting this set up. Just contact me at callmekir.com/contact and I'll get right back to you. As ever, if you've enjoyed this content, be sure to like, share, subscribe, and comment. And if there are other topics that you'd like to see that you think would be helpful to you on your journey on this channel, be sure to let me know. Thanks. Thank you very much for watching that video. Daddy loves subscribers, so click here to subscribe. If you'd like to watch another video, you can do that by clicking here. See you soon.